The cover page of One Piece chapter 1135, titled Camaraderie Cups, features Tama freeing herself from Hold'em's clutches. She's stronger than she was in the past and didn't need Yamato to save her. This is quite the turnaround. We begin things with Chopper and Bonnie, who are amazed by the massive books. Saul introduced them all to Bibelo, the master of the library. It's said that he's been here for centuries. At the very least, they know one thing about him for certain. He has the power to gigantify any book that enters his territory. Because Elbaf isn't affiliated with the world government, the island doesn't receive visits from news coups. But sometimes their fishermen snag the tiny papers and bring them here to be read. Lilith recognized the owl's devil fruit based on the description provided. It is the rear fruit, making it a nurturing owl. She's amazed by the fact that even inorganic things can be grown by his power. Then added that it's a perfect ability for a kingdom of giants. Based on her words, it seems like the owl is using the peripheral aspects of the fruit as the main ability. So it can probably do a lot more when it comes to the growth and development of others. I wonder if it means that this thing can turn people into giants. That would have definitely saved Big Mom a lot of time. Saul wondered if Robin was feeling nostalgic, and she was. Chopper expressed his hope that they'll have medical books too. Robin admitted that although they had a few, most of the books were archaeological or historical in nature. But here, they have some medical books that are native to Elbaf. That seemed to excite Chopper. But since the books were always large, they can't be shrunken down. At the same time, Luffy and Usopp are using a wooden swing with two giant children who were scared out of their wits. Luffy was having a blast. Then he and Usopp got hit a few times by Nami for scaring the kids. Although Usopp actually felt the same way as they did. The children ran into Gurd's comforting embrace. Luffy told them that it's shameful for a warrior to cry. Sanji huffed at Luffy to back off since these kids were raised with nothing but love and kindness. It's cool that that's something he can recognize and admire. But something else caught his eye. Just like Momonosuke in the past, this kid had a devious look on his face while being held, much to Sanji's dismay. Luffy was feeling pretty disappointed and said as much to Usopp. The sniper agreed, but argued that a peaceful Elbaf isn't exactly a bad thing. Just then, the two were swept away by the gust of a weapon, impacting the ground. Things weren't looking very peaceful now. Colin shouted that the pirate is wide open. He struck, and Luffy snapped the wooden sword in half. Luffy leapt up before Colin could process. Then he prepared a gear third fist overhead. He slammed an elephant gun right by the kid. Usopp shouted at his fool of a captain and told him not to go too far. And yeah, gear third against the kid is pretty crazy. Unless we're talking about the Seraphim, that is. Luffy argued that he didn't hit him, but that wasn't the point. At the very least, he was happy to know that not all of the young giants are spineless after all. The giant children weren't too thrilled by his behavior either. They really don't like violence. Colin, meanwhile, was overjoyed and found the Emperor's behavior to be very cool. The other kids complained about Colin, their local delinquent, just as much. Apparently, he pulls stunts like this and ditches school to boot. Colin let the weaklings know that the feeling is very mutual. Next, Ridley chimed in and told the boy not to cause a scene. Although she did praise him for his initiating strike. Colin was pleased and told his mother about the snacks Mato packed for her. Sanji was surprised to find out that Colin is Ripley's son. He wondered if she wasn't going to make him apologize for the sneak attack. Then Colin told them that his dad's a human like them. He used to be a pirate and doesn't fear anyone, including the warriors of Elbaf. That information seemed to expand Sanji's view of what's possible. Ripley said that her husband is far younger than her. Their marriage is also informal on account of their age gap. He thinks it would be weird since he's the only one who would ever grow old. And based on what was said at the bar, it seems like Colin's dad is still on Elbaf. Maybe he's that silhouetted figure that we keep seeing. With all this talk about age, he might actually be an old man. For his son to still have a warrior spirit, despite the progressive climate of the country, this guy must be pretty hard-boiled. If he's a veteran pirate of some sort, maybe from Roger's crew, then he may be able to shed some light on this whole second Shanks thing. Luffy and the others were finally taken to the library. Robin told her captain that she wants to spend more time with Saul, so she'll meet them at the feast later. Saul laughed. Knowing the others, that party will go on for several days, so they have plenty of time. Chopper decided to stick around too. The same goes for Lilith and Bonnie. And it turns out that Lilith will be getting a permit to build a new lab after all. so she's not as imposing as we previously thought. Franky had some work of his own to tend to. Elbaf is on an atom tree. That's the same sort of wood that the Sunny is made of. There are other atom trees around the world, but this one in particular is especially old. So Franky wants to learn as much about it while they're here. Hopefully that can lead to more upgrades. Luffy didn't have a problem with any of them deciding to stay, but he'll be going since he is totally starving at this point. But before they split up, Gerd has a gift for them. The remaining Straw Hats receive their Elbaf outfits at last. They all look really cool, especially Franky. I'm a big fan of the Viking helmets. Gerd was able to provide these since she likes making human clothes for fun. They were all so adorable to her. Jinbei was surprised by how comfortable his new clothes are. And just like that, the Straw Hat merch machine revs up yet again. Gerd definitely designed these for them specifically because there is no way she just had comfortable fits for Jinbei and Franky on hand when she makes clothes for humans. From there, Luffy and his group set off for the party. In the nearby castle, the two invaders were spotted by a pair of guards. They wondered if the small people might be members of the Straw Hat Pirates. The bandaged woman paused. Then she expressed that they're looking for Loki. The giant laughed before asking why they'd want to see such a criminal. The other added that their country suffered quite a lot from Loki killing his own father. That's why the castle is so empty in the first place. She asked if they'll tell her where Loki is. They refused since they don't want there to be any chance of Loki escaping. She apologized to Shanks' doppelganger since this turned out to be a waste of time. Something began to happen that freaked out the two guards. Suddenly, one of the giants was kneeling in pain, much to the others' confusion. The pain was unrelenting. The woman explained that this is what happens when you're overly rude and prideful. She was never giving them a choice. She made it clear that this is an order. Yeah, so if it wasn't already clear, this dude is definitely not Shanks if he has no idea where to find Prince Loki. In the village, Luffy and Usopp began to reminisce over their days in the East Blue and their desire to make it to Elbaf. Now they're finally here and really happy about it. Dory and Brogy were happy that they made it since they defended their pride. Oimo and Kashi felt the same way since the Straw Hats freed them after they were tricked. And Harudin shared the sentiment since they saved him from Doflamingo's tyranny. They all officially welcomed the Straw Hats to Elbaf. Although they're small, no giant would dare look down on them. They cheered the Emperor and his crew, who took down Kaido and Big Mom at Wano. The many giants raised their mugs in honor of the Straw Hats. Some more giants made their way towards the festivities. Looking up, Luffy recognized one of them from Sabaody. Stanson introduced himself. When Harudin told him that they're under Luffy's banner, he became sure that it was all thanks to fate. After all, he swore to pay back the debt. As a reminder, Stanson is Harudin's childhood friend who was captured and intended to be sold at the human auction house. But the commotion caused by the Straw Hats allowed him to escape. Luffy happily stuffed his face, glad that their actions had a positive impact on his life. Elder Ja Rule showed up next, wondering if everyone was enjoying themselves. This big fella makes Brogy look like a child. The heroic eldest giant is now 408 years old. This feels like meeting Grand Elder Guru on Namek. At an age like that, I wonder what sort of stories this old-timer might have to share. Luffy freaked out when he noticed the huge sword going through the elder's head. Meanwhile, Ja Rule just laughed it off. He claimed to be lucky since his helmet saved him, and although it clearly went straight through, he's pretty chill about it. At the very least, these two members of God's Knights must be very, very powerful if we have the entire Straw Hat crew and all of Elbaf's warriors to go up against them. Things will definitely need to become more hectic and chaotic for us to quantify this as a proper threat. So what do you think will come up? Luffy is an emperor, so what can they do to actually push him? Let us know what you think in the comments. As always, I'm Sliceable Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.